Hi everyone, and welcome to the very first instalment of Conversations about Writing. I'm Helen Lewis, a tutor for healthcare professionals, and I'm here with a fellow educator, Vicky Robinson. In this series, we're focusing on the writing done by our learners, especially those who use English as an additional language. Our students write for a variety of purposes: to persuade, to communicate clearly and professionally, and of course to meet academic goals. But no matter the purpose, we believe that good quality feedback makes all the difference. That's why in each episode we're going to take turns looking at a piece of writing from one of the other's students. We'll share our thoughts on what the writer is doing well and explore how we might help them develop their skills even further. And just a quick note, this first time we recorded, my face didn't make it onto the video, but don't worry, you can still hear us both clearly. We hope you enjoy this conversation, which starts with Vicky talking about her work.
Yeah, I also teach writing. I've been teaching English for about 15 years, and in the last 5 years, I've been helping professionals with their writing. So people who need writing for emails and reports, proposals, and also do some more academic classes like IELTS,
No.
Cambridge Advanced,
Yeah.
academic writing. And I love to teach writing.
Yeah. What do you love about it?
I love writing myself.
Okay.
I love writing in English and Spanish.
Wow.
And I think what I like about writing is helping students to find their voice in
Yeah.
English. I think it's challenging in a second language. I meet students who are incredible professionals, but they struggle to communicate or to find their own voice in English. So
Yes.
I really enjoy helping people on that journey.
No.
And you, what do you enjoy about teaching writing?
I can echo a lot of what you've said. My learners, my students are healthcare professionals, and finding their voice when they write is so important. And also, there's a real impact. If they can write well, then their jobs are going to be easier. They're going to get more out of their work. So that's one of the things I enjoy.
So today,
Yes. What have
today,
you got for me to look at today?
Helen, I have for you today a LinkedIn post from a student who's working in climate activism. And the challenges in her writing are about tone. She wants to sound more persuasive. She needs help with kind of, yeah, like how to be more persuasive and how to write
Uh-huh.
this kind of LinkedIn posts.
And she works in climate activism. This is her real work, right?
Yes.
Wow.
She does many things, but this is one of her projects. So I will just make it bigger for us. Okay.
So we'll
Yeah.
just leave it up there for people to have a look at. So she wants to sound more natural, accurate, and persuasive.
So I'm excited to hear your feedback, Helen.
I always like to start with what a writer has done well. And I would say 90% of this is completely intelligible, completely clear. We know what the concern is and we know what we need to do for the most part. And I think the things where she's been most successful is the imperatives, like buy secondhand, be conscious, don't leave traces. And I like that some of these are really specific: eat seasonable vegetables, buy secondhand.
Yeah.
And there's also, even in this short piece, a development where she's encouraging the reader to share this message with other people. So it's some things you can do by yourself and some things that you can do to be part of a bigger movement.
Yeah, which is persuasive.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah, yeah. It's not just do this because I'm telling you to, it's do this. And the reason is very clear. She starts with some very dramatic sentences. The first cap of 1.5 degrees is behind us now. We're shedding away our last hope. So she's connected the big picture with the smaller picture. And I think that's what a lot of climate activists say, right? Try to connect the big world with daily life.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me about her challenges.
Yes, there's a couple of really confusing, potentially confusing phrases. The phrase chunk it up. I know from the genre that this is to do with spreading the word because she's said plant a seed in their minds. So this genre of inspirational writing is about spreading the word, but chunk it up doesn't seem the right phrase to
No, what
use
would you
there.
say?
Yeah, that's a great question. Plant a seed in their mind and let it grow. I might say let it grow
Ooh.
because that's congruent with plant a seed. What about you, Vicky? Do you have any thoughts?
I can't get past let it grow now. I think it sounds wonderful.
Time to think about it. But yeah, it could be that she asks other people about a different phrase to use there. Could you talk to her about what she was trying to say with chunk it up?
Yeah, and I've forgotten what we said, Helen.
Okay.
Do
Yeah.
you remember what we talked about? We can edit this bit
Yeah,
out.
no, it was something to do with
Let me have a look.
taking it to the bigger up suggests progress, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm
Trouble
trying.
with chunkets is usually to do with there's already something that's a small piece and you're putting them together, but it just doesn't fit the image of the seed growing organically. Chunk it up sounds like a building site, but plant a seed sounds like my garden. I
Yeah.
can't quite remember what we said, but the
Let me
problem,
just
yeah, do you want
let
me,
me just check it and then we can
yeah,
just
yeah,
cut this bit out.
totally, yeah,
Sorry.
no worries.
Yeah, it sounds like cutting up carrots to me.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, so I think she'd obviously found this
uh-huh.
word in a dictionary,
Uh-huh.
and in context, it does mean moving from small scale
Yes,
and building to something big.
yes, yeah,
But it doesn't work here. I think it doesn't work with
mm-hmm.
seeds. So let it grow or
Mm-hmm.
plant a seed in their minds, start small
Yeah,
and grow bigger. I don't know, something about
yes, yes,
growing maybe. Yeah.
yes, totally,
Um,
yes.
And the other word, if we unify, so she's a Spanish speaker, and this is a
Mm-hmm.
bit of a Spanglish thing. So if we unite, if we come together,
Okay,
I think that's what I told
right.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, the tone of if we unify really sounds a bit more like, to my mind, not knowing anything about Spanish, that what needs to happen is a big, cohesive, single movement of people.
Mm,
Yeah, and it's not wrong. It just sounds it's an idea that doesn't fit what she's already talked about so
yeah.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think she wants to say unite
if we
or come
unite,
together.
yeah, even that strikes me as being out of tone with the rest of it because all the examples she's chosen are very much to do with an individual's way of acting day to day. It isn't about, to me, joining around a single idea, but it might be in her mind. So I think the one of the things that she could do would be to think about the themes
Yeah.
she is working with. Yeah, I just want to comment on the length of the clauses. They get longer as she goes through, and it feels a little bit uneven. There are the short 2-word sentences, and then things get quite long, and it feels a bit unbalanced. But she's not a native English speaker,
And
so
so tell me
yeah.
about what do you, I would love to pick your brains about the tone and how appropriate this is
Right.
for a LinkedIn post, and
Right.
how we could start with this writing and make it into something that's really good for
Yes.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
So think about what's already on LinkedIn so that what she produces is recognizable and it's in the same genre. Yeah,
Mm.
but she could also think about what's called the success framework. And I came across this when I was working in Japan with people making presentations, and they often wanted to end with something persuasive. So this book, Made to Stick, has got a framework called Success with one S for persuasive writing. I'll just go through the points because she could apply them. So, first of all, keep the idea simple. Try to make your idea very compact. And the example given in the book was from JF Kennedy: put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth by the end of the decade. And it was said, if you looked at a business mission statement today, they would not be as clear and simple as this. This is very clear, very easy to understand what the space mission was all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also found on LinkedIn a good example of unexpected ideas, and it was a video called Mars Sucks on LinkedIn climate change. And it was talking about how, despite all of the efforts to explore Mars, Mars doesn't really have anything that Earth does. It doesn't have the nature, it doesn't have animal life, it has a terrible climate, it has not very much water, if any. And so it said, but Earth is brilliant, so let's look after Earth before we go off to Mars, which is a bit controversial, but that that was unexpected, and it makes people think, oh, what's this all about? It makes people curious to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's concrete. Make sure that what you say is specific by the end of the decade, in the case of JF Kennedy's mission statement. Credible means believable to your audience. So you might cite your sources, or it could be from personal testimony. Emotional, identify the feelings. So there was a great example here of an anti-litter campaign in Texas. And it was a cowboy saying, don't mess with Texas.
I
So
love it.
that appeals to individuality and masculinity and strength and all that kind of idea, and identifying with the emotion of Texas. I'm not from Texas, so I can't speak for that, but it just struck me as a very clever.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, don't mess with Texas. And then the story will be like a story that begins and ends in a particular way, or it could be connected to a credible source. So it could connect to number 3. So anyway,
Yeah.
you don't have to use all of these, but some of these will make a big difference. So I think
Yeah.
if we applied that to this writer's work, we could give her a checklist and ask her to think about whether she's applied these and maybe focusing on 1 or 2.
I saw that you
Yeah.
also shared a LinkedIn post to help her look at an example of how that's
Right.
achieved in other thing as well. I
Yes.
thought that was really nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
About noticing something in another piece of writing for a second there. So it starts with a statistic about how a business would be affected, right? 53% of consumers avoid brands without sustainability goals. That's money left on the table. So this is quite
Concrete. It's very
really
concrete.
concrete. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
surprising. It goes on, it talks again about losing $8 million in sales last quarter and how the competitor grew by growing green. And then there's a list of specific things that could be done. It's really simple. The graphic as well at the top, I really like that too. That
Yeah.
captures actually doing things, not just saying things. So that's very simple. It's got a sense of emotion about it as well, because it says what matters most. And of course, there's a little bit of color there too. Uh,
Yeah.
in terms of how this piece is different, what do you think, how this is different to your writer's work in terms of the success framework? Could you see any differences?
Yeah. So I think the concreteness is the main thing that jumps out to me. So if we go back to her writing, there is some, like you said, the first cap of 1.5 degrees is behind us now, but there's not as much information as the other one gives you. And also the first cap of 1.5 degrees, for some people, maybe they're not going to know how that relates to them. And then the main difference for me that I can see is the formatting.
Yes.
And what I really like about LinkedIn for learning to write is
Yes.
you don't need to get lost in paragraphs. Like this
Yes.
kind of persuasive writing,
Yes.
she could probably produce something like this very easily, just with a bit of
Yes.
format changing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
lovely.
And then the other thing I quite like is the dialogue of it. What's keeping your industry from embracing sustainability? So
Lots of
that's,
questions. Yeah.
yeah. And then at the top, it's their competitor question mark. So it really feels very conversational. And that relates to, as you said, the layout. And I've heard different things about LinkedIn, how you should make sure that you can, at a glance, see what a post is about, which makes things more engaging. And then at the bottom, she's put, or the writer, Janvi, has written, repost and share with your network with the icon, which I think is the
Yeah.
recycling icon.
So I think it's also about, with persuasive writing, making sure that call to action is really clear and it's at the end. So I think we could
Yes.
also play, for our writer, play with the order. She did
Yes.
use please share with your network, but it got a bit lost in the
Did.
paragraph. So this
Yes.
would be a way of making it stand out,
Absolutely.
which keeps with this kind of tone that people use.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lovely.
lovely.
Really
Thank you.
interesting. Thank you.
Okay, so what do you have for me here, Helen?
We have a letter from an OET candidate who was preparing to take the OET in nursing. And the OET stands for Occupational English Test. And it's the test that someone who's done their nursing training outside an English speaking country needs to pass this test. They need to get a 300 out of 500, and they need to write accurately, politely, and organize the
It sounds
letter.
difficult.
It is, it really is. But one of the things I like about it is that I get to sneak a little peek into this world of medicine and nursing. So we'll just leave that on the screen now to have a look at. It's a discharge letter.
I think it's very good.
It is.
Yeah, I can talk through my feedback. You'll see
I
my
would,
highlights.
yes. Well, tell us what the green, do you do this with your learners? Do
This
you
is what I
cover it
do
in color?
for my students.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I like to highlight. I think this is very good. The organization of the writing is great.
Right.
I think in a lot of cases there's the right tone and it's very clear. So I've highlighted in green some really good, like, letter writing basics. I'm writing
Yes.
to discharge
Yes.
price into your care.
Yes.
And please contact me if you have any questions at the end. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of good, appropriate, nice and formal letter writing.
Yes, she's absorbed that really well.
Yeah, and challenges. I think the first challenge that I see here is like a functional
Mhm.
language challenge. So I think sometimes I've highlighted in yellow places where I feel that the tone is not really appropriate. So in this discharge letter, she's a nurse writing to a doctor and giving instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so giving instructions of how to care for the patient. But it's a formal letter, so you
Mhm.
should or must be monitored by you sounds a bit too
Yes.
direct for me
Yes.
in this
Right.
kind of writing.
It is. It is.
So I think I would provide some suggestions, like little phrases that
Mhm.
this writer
Yeah.
could learn. So it would be helpful if you could. When I was looking at some examples in some models, I saw a lot of in your care, she will need regular checks.
Yes.
Please,
Right.
could you also,
Yes.
so very polite, quite
Yes.
professional and formal, but
Mhm.
clear.
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. In the case of must be monitored by you, the by you sounds quite aggressive, as though no one else can do it, but it can be
yes.
done by another professional. So having the range of more polite phrases, such as it would also be helpful, she will
Yeah.
need. I think a lot of students or people preparing for the occupational English test worry about being too direct. I think this writer was fine with it. But yeah, absolutely having a range of ways to ask for something to be done.
Yeah.
It's
There's
one
lots of,
option.
I think, for any kind of writing, like letter writing, email writing, these kind of go-to phrases, certain functions,
Right.
requesting, giving
Yes.
instructions, they're so useful.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. And then the second challenge is just some basic proofreading.
Yes.
I can
Right.
see in blue, I've put a couple of
Yes.
mistakes on punctuation, so
Yes.
Mr. or Mrs.
Yeah.
Few mistakes with prepositions, like
Yes. Really hard for writers.
prepositions are hard in English.
Yeah.
So I think obviously you
Yeah.
can't avoid making any mistakes, but I
Right.
think, yeah, for this writer, I would advise them to create a checklist, could
Mhm.
even try proofreading aloud and making sure, for now, I think I would add to the checklist, check that I have included a close. You know,
Absolutely.
there's no kind
No.
regards or
Yes.
something at the end.
That would
And
really
in
use
an exam that
points.
would matter, right?
Would. And in real life as well, it sounds really abrupt to close like that.
Yeah, so like a proofreading check. And then maybe you could add to this checklist directness and politeness. So
Right.
you can just
Yes.
get used to proofreading
Yes.
your writing and thinking, have I been polite enough? Am I being too direct? And I
Yes.
think slowly over time that
Yes.
helps you to write it better in the first place.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like you, Helen, I would give this student a model. I can share a link to an OET model letter
Oh, you've really done your homework, haven't you?
where, yeah, because I don't teach OET, but I know
Mhm.
that if I looked at the models and
Mhm.
highlighted the functional language, you can learn a lot just from
And I think one of the things that's nice to do is to highlight the different kinds of functional language and how they match up to different kinds of requests. So I talk about expensive and cheap request language. Here's an example of the more expensive one. It would be appreciated if, but something which is simpler to do, you could probably use the word please or kindly, for example, monitor the wound.
Right. So if
So
it's easy to do and you're not asking a lot, you would say something like,
yeah,
please monitor the wound.
yes,
But if it's, I would appreciate if you could,
provide, assess the patient and provide a
right,
yeah,
because it's requiring more
right,
work. Yeah,
exactly.
that's very useful for any email writing, I think, as well.
Yeah, just to be aware of how the reader's going to interpret that task they're being asked to do, and for that to be signaled by the writer. I know I'm asking you to do something difficult, but the challenge for my learners is that very often in OET, there's a lot of tasks they need to ask, and some they need to prioritize and others not. So I think just having a look at the model letters can be really useful. As long as they
Yeah.
don't get too attached to them, they then have the confidence to organize the letter. And I think that's a theme that has come up in both pieces of writing we've looked at today: the organization, the space, the layout, all of
Mm.
those things.
And I think the thing that with writing is it's a any good writer will tell you you don't just write something and you write it great
Mm-hmm.
first time. So I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes my students will worry about
Mm-hmm.
not writing things well
Oh,
first time in
uh-huh.
English. And
Yes.
actually, to become a good writer, that proofreading, that looking at examples and analysis, like
Yes.
it will improve your writing.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
takes time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know I've found LinkedIn writing quite difficult. And now, having seen a lot of other people's, you start to find your voice.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that thing you said at the start about helping people find their voice. Weirdly, you need to look at other people's writing to see what you like, what you don't like, what works, and how that fits into your own voice. So,
Yeah, and like
really,
maybe not in an exam context, you're a
mm,
little bit more
right,
constricted, but in your
right,
professional life,
Yeah.
Maybe you prefer a more direct style, and that's what you want to communicate in English, right? So
Yes.
it's also, I think it's so wonderful when you can get to a point where you do have that flexibility. So I think that's what a lot of people are aiming for. And
Nice.
yeah, really interesting. I loved your checklist about the success
The
for
success,
persuasive
right?
writing.
I will
Yeah.
send that to you, so maybe I can get that available and share it. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Vicky. It's been a real pleasure to talk and learn about how you approach teaching writing. And yeah, looking forward to the next time.
Thanks, Helen. Thank you.
Well, that was such a great discussion today. Two really different kinds of writing, but actually with some really similar themes: finding your voice, thinking about your audience, and shaping the message clearly. So, whether it's a LinkedIn post or a clinical letter, the key takeaway is that good writing is a process. It's about experimenting, getting feedback, learning from examples of other writers, and trying again. Thank you for watching. If you found this useful, please feel free to share it with someone who's working on their writing too. Take care and see you next time.